changes the demand of end products. End of life product hub is going to be really, really important. Circular economy and the recovery and the making value out of the waste.
Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it was the end of the first and the second session of our conference. Thank you for all of the participations and thank you for the excellent session and shared knowledge on this day. Please receive our gratitude. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue to the next agenda, let's take a look at the highlight video of the fourth motif. Please enjoy. Emang 1 menit lagi, 2 menit lagi? Enggak kan?
as you see on the slide, the PWS or Purified Water System and PTAK site should be made the requirement that will be provided by United States Department of Energy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you ever wonder what makes a life-changing history? Right, a solid mission of the visionaries. It was Dr. Unka and his colleagues' mission to accelerate technology development. Through the establishment of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, their goodwill has encouraged ITS students to take important roles in both local and global communities, ministers, CEOs, professors, entrepreneurs, and yes, another history maker. These successful alumni were trained in a healthy learning environment that was equipped with various supporting facilities. From vocation to marine technology, all faculties and departments of ITS were formed to be the best place to learn science, technology, and design. 7 faculties and 1 interdisciplinary school. Scientists, Faculty of Science and Data Analytics. MARTech, Faculty of Marine Technology. INSYS, Faculty of Industrial Technology and Systems Engineering. Electics, Faculty of Intelligent Electrical and Informatics Technology. CivPlan, Faculty of Civil, Planning, and Geoengineering. CreaBiz, Faculty of Creative Design and Digital Business. Vocation, Faculty of Vocation programs they can apply. The chances are also open for professors from all over the world to teach and conduct research at ITS. These opportunities have made international joint research and other international activities successfully performed. Like IUP, students and lecturers from other programs have also contributed to the ITS achievements. Numerous appreciations earned exemplify Institute's excellent performance. But technology and academic excellence is not the only goal of the Institute. Students are guided to apply their knowledge for the welfare of society. Because to note a new life-changing history. Technology must advance humanity. ITS, Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before we proceed, we would like to remind you to complete the registration on the link or by scanning the QR code on your very own screen. Or you can also access it by clicking on the comment section. Don't forget to change your username to the explain form. And before we begin today's conference, we would like to remind you about the video conference rules for this event. First, please make sure you're using the correct username as explained by the committee with using ID_full name. Second, because there are quite a lot of participants today, we are hoping that all of the participants could please turn off the audio features during this conference, except for the moderator and the keynote speakers. Third, during this conference, we are hoping for the audiences to turn on the audio only on the question and answer session. Fourth, we are delightfully suggesting for all of the participants to be able to adjust the position to the most comfortable seating and make sure to get enough amount of lighting to prevent backlights. Fifth, please make sure your connection is in the best condition as a stabilized connection is needed for this video conference. Sixth, as for the question and answer session, if there are any questions or responses, all audiences could use the raise hand button via Zoom or just simply send your responses by the chat com. 7, to obtain certificate of presenters, you must attend the whole session from the opening until the closing ceremony by accessing this link. 8, the proof of attendance for these webinars is screenshot containing your slide, your face, and your name. Excellencies, honored guests, audiences, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. We are delighted to welcome you in 10 November Institut of Teknologi Surabaya for the 4th International Conference on Management of Technology, Innovation, and Project, Motif 2022. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Sucia. As for today, welcome to the Honorable Professor Nyoman Pujawan as the Dean of Interdisciplinary School of Management and Technology, SIMT ITS. To the Honorable Mr. Haryo Dwito Armono PhD as the General Chair of the 4th Motif. To the Honorable Associate Professor Amar Amir PhD as our keynote speaker. To the Honorable Committees of the 4th Motif. To all of the session chairs, to the lecturers of SIMT ITS, to the honorable presenters and participants, and also to the honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Further, for the sequence of this morning agendas, we will sing our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please adjust your seating. as the General Chair of the fourth motive. The time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, conference guests and participants. As the fourth motive conference chairman committee of this year, on behalf of the conference committee, I would like to welcome and appreciate all academics, researchers, students, and practitioners for your participation and article submission to this conference. Currently, we receive about 107 research papers, best practices, and ideas related to the theme and topics of interest to be disseminated in this conference. The participants are coming from various institutions such as University of Indonesia, ITB Bandung, Presiden University, Institut Teknologi Garut, Tanjung Pura University Pontianak, ITT Surabaya, and University of Pembangunan Jaya. Conference guests and participants, unfortunately, the fourth motive this year must be held online due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemics. Therefore, the seminar presentation is arranged online in morning and afternoon session. There are 8 breakout rooms for each session where 7 to 8 participants will present their papers in each room. With the hope of the pandemic will soon disappear and condition will return to normal, the theme raised in today's fourth motive conference is how COVID-19 has transformed business. We are so fortunate to have Professor Amar Amir, PhD, PMP, an experienced professional for more than 22 years in project management, supply chain management, operation management, and strategic business. He has served as a consultant on system and processes, including lean manufacturing, warehousing, Six Sigma, process and quality improvement, and simulation modeling for numerous organizations. Professor Amir has also served in various roles in education, including as assistant professors, associate professor, and dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Technology at Sana and Sampurna University in Yemen and Indonesia. Conference guests and participants, in closing, I would like to express my gratitude and high appreciation to the various parties, especially the Rector of ITS, the Dean of Interdisciplinary School and Management and Technology, ITS leaders and lecturers, students, and all motive seminar committee members. I hope you enjoy and gain fruitful insight and discussion. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for the conduction to the Honorable Mr. Haryo Dwito Armono, PhD, as the General Chair of the fourth motive. And with honor, we would like to invite Professor Nyoman Pujawan as the Dean of SIMT ITS to deliver a few sentences. For Professor Nyoman Pujawan, the stage is yours.
Very good morning to everyone, all the participants, wherever you are now. First of all, I would like to welcome you to the fourth international conference called Motive. And this conference, as reported by the chair of the committee, Dr. Haryo, has a big number of participants. And I would like to congratulate the committee for the success. And also very much thank you for everyone for supporting this conference, especially all the participants who have submitted your papers to be presented in today's motive conference. As all of you aware, this is the fourth conference, and we initiated Motive in 2020. And all of the Motive conferences have been done online because since 2020, we have been experiencing COVID-19 that forced us to work remotely from home. But thanks to the technology that we have right now, like Zoom that we are using in this conference, we still enables to perform this conference even it is online. The theme of the conference is very relevant to the today's environment, where everyone has to adjust to the current situation of COVID-19. All businesses, education, even our personal business need to be adjusted to the current situation. I think the theme of the conference is very interesting, and we are looking forward to listen to the presentation of the keynote speaker, Professor Amir from University of Northwestern in Ontario in Canada, who will be presenting how COVID has transformed businesses and also how project management has made this relevant. It would be very interesting, and I would like to also invite everybody to listen and to learn from his presentation. And of course, I would like to thank Professor Amar for having you today in this conference. Even we are very far away, you are in Canada and we are here in Indonesia, due to COVID-19, and thanks to technology, we are able to do this remotely. Finally, I would like to express gratitude to everyone who have been participated in this conference, and hope everybody is having a good time today and have a useful takeaway from this conference. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you for Professor Nyoman Pujawan as the Dean of SIMT ITS. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will listen to today's keynote speech with the title of How COVID-19 Has Transformed the Business from Associate Professor Amar Amir, PhD. And we will invite to the stage the Honorable Ibu Reni Nadli Fatin, PhD, as our moderator for the keynote speech session. For Ibu Reni Nadli Fatin, PhD, the time is yours.
Well, thank you, Terry, for the time. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the keynote sessions of the 4th International Conference on Management of Technology, Innovation and Project Motive 2022. I am Reni Nadli Fatin. It's my pleasure to be here as the moderator for the sessions with the theme How COVID-19 Has Transformed the Business. But first of all, I may briefly introduce you our keynote speaker, Associate Professor Amar Amir, PhD, PMP, CSSPB. Good morning, Professor Amir. It's nice to meet you here.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect, clear. Thank you, Prof. Amir. Prof. Amir graduated with PhD title in Industrial Engineering, Supply Chain and Operation Management from the University of Tennessee, USA. He currently is an associate professor in project management programs in the College of Professional Studies, Northeastern University, Toronto, Canada. He has many excellent experience in prominent research and projects in the project management, supply chain management, and operation management. And today, Professor Amir will deliver the topic of the business transformation and project management amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. So without further ado, please welcome Professor Amir. You have 40 minutes to present, and you are pleased to share your slides, and then you may start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning. Selamat pagi, everybody. Please allow me to share my presentation. Just give me 1 second. Okay, could you please confirm that you see my PowerPoint?
It's perfect, Professor.
Okay. So again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very honored to be with you today here and have the opportunity to present in this year's 4th International Conference on Management of Technology, Innovation, and a project with the theme of how COVID-19 has transformed businesses. So in my preparation for today's lecture or presentation, I was thinking about what should be an appropriate topic to fit with the theme of the conference. So I decided to talk about business transformation and project management, which is the title of the presentation, amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Since this is related to both the conference theme as well as some of the work that we are doing here in Northeastern University in Toronto. So let me start with the agenda for today. As usual, we'll start with a quick introduction about my university. Some of you already know about Northeastern University, some not, so I'll just give a brief introduction about the university. Then we will get into the topic of the impact of COVID-19 on businesses in Canada, just to give you a glimpse of what is happening here in Canada, which is assuming is similar to a lot of countries all over the world. Then I'll get into the topic, which is how COVID-19 has transformed businesses, and I'll talk mainly about what we see as a trend in the industry. Then I want to tie both the project management as well as what is happening with COVID, because we believe there is a strong correlation between what is happening here in project management. Then I'll get into the topic of emergent technologies, which is one of the research that we're working right now on, which is emergent technologies and the principle-based project management. And we will conclude our presentation today with some key takeaways. No need to go through the introduction, already being introduced with a lot of details. So as the moderator and Dr. Newman mentioned, that I work in Northeastern University in Canada. This is the beautiful city of Toronto in Canada, where I am right now. I work in the Masters of Science Project Management program. And the university is a US university, as you know. It's a private university that was founded in 1898. It is one of the top 50 universities, and it's known for #1 for co-op internships university. In Northeastern University, we focus mainly on what we call the XN projects. XN is more like an experiential learning, where there is a relationship between the university and the industry, and our students will be working on real world type of problems in the classroom. Northeastern University is one of the global network with more than 240,000 alumni, about 3,300 corporate partners. And this is give us the leverage in terms of being the leader in terms of the experiential learning, if you will. It's an elite level of academic resources with a lot of career and development resources. In terms of numbers, total population of the students, it's about 38,000 total in terms of students. We have 9 colleges, almost 1,400 full-time faculty members. It's number 49 in terms of the ranking for the National University. Locations, as I said, I'm in Toronto, Canada, and the main campus is in Boston, the USA. So a lot of you know, when you hear Northeastern University, it's always in Boston. But we have several regional campuses. The one in Toronto, we have in Silicon Valley, Portland, Charlotte, North Carolina, Seattle, and now we're expanding to Europe also. There is a campus in London. So that was a quick overview about Northeastern University, so you know where Northeastern University is. Now let me get into the topic of today's presentation. which is the impact of COVID-19. But I will start with the impact of COVID-19 on businesses in Canada, just to give you a perspective of what is happening in Canada. The government in Canada has been very strict in terms of controlling what is happening with the COVID and the impact of COVID-19. I want to start with what is happening with small businesses, and there's a reason why I'm starting with small businesses. Small and medium-sized businesses in Canada, they are actually significant contributor to the Canadian economy. We're talking about 98% of all employer businesses in Canada, which employs 64% of the total labor force, which is a huge amount in terms of the percentage. When you talk about medium-sized business, we're talking about 21%, large business 14%, for about 15% in terms of the total percentage of the business in Canada. And unfortunately, in similar to a lot of regions globally, the biggest hit business sector was the small and medium business sector in even Canada and all over the world. So let's see what is happening in that perspective. So in Canada, in terms of the GDP, there was a contract of about 18.2% between March and April. But the economy has recovered since then. But until the end of 2021, we're still 1.5% below what it was before COVID. And what is interesting is in Canada, there were a lot of periods between closure, lockdown, then we open up, then closure, then you open up. Was until maybe 2 weeks ago, January 31st, there was a lockdown because of the Omicron. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a strict regulations in terms of the government. And the number one hit is small and medium businesses. So what is happening, that there are remain challenges and uncertainty ahead of businesses. And what's interesting also that there was a lot of investment in terms of digital infrastructure. So the initial stages of pandemic, as mentioned here, coincide with business productivity as business invested in digital infrastructure. And that's one of the things that we will talk about. So one of the questions we have is, what is happening? Has the economy recovered in Canada? Well, looking at some of statistics from Statistics Canada, you can see there's uneven recovery across the industry. So if you look at this side over here, this represents the pre-COVID era. So what is happening? Did we go back to what was before COVID? You will see some industries over here above the pre-COVID threshold, and still a lot of businesses still with the negative percentage in terms of the pre-COVID era. And of course, it depends, it differs from one industry to another. So you can see most of the industries here are the front, we call them the front side type of industry. It would be like tourism, restaurant, That was not an issue for the first path over here. The issue is physical and tangible product and what is happening and how the COVID-19 impacted some of the businesses and the transformation process of businesses. So if you look at the second path over here, well, it depends on the product itself. Before COVID, either they were fully digital. When I say fully digital, I mean that they were present in the web in terms of having website, product delivery, they do it online. Some organizations, they had partial digital, but they also have physical, would be some example like retailers. Some organizations before COVID, they were not present in terms of digitalization. Their product was not, they did not have the digital infrastructure. Then you had type of products that was very difficult to digitalize, like the hotel industry, the tourism. How would you digitalize somebody renting a room? So I categorize it as a difficult to digitalize type of product. So what is the impact of COVID on these type of businesses and the product delivery here? Of course, it varied. For those who were fully digital before COVID, of course, they sustained and they prospered. Those who were partially digital, they had a physical presence as well as digital product delivery. The reaction was they increased their digital presence and digital infrastructure in terms of the product delivery. Those who were not digitally present, a good example, like I heard Professor Newman talking about how COVID impacted us in every perspective of our lives, even in education. That would be a good example here in terms of universities. Before COVID, I mean, some organizations that had online presence, but mainly it was all face-to-face, in-person classes. But people thought about, okay, now we have to come up with solutions. So the delivery method or the modality of delivering lectures changed. Well, that's why I call it possible to digitalize. So there was some kind of innovative ideas to have online platforms, to use Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and there was a boom. And the impact of those kind of businesses, they thrived. However, some other business did not react. They stagnated. And what happened? They struggled, and some of them went out of business. For those who their type of product is difficult to digitalize. I gave an example about the hotel industry, for example. The response in terms of the change is until now they're trying to mitigate, trying to reduce the impact. Some of them are still struggling and going out of business, and others they're still enduring. In countries like, I know in Canada here, we have government support supporting small businesses in terms of funds, support throughout the pandemic. But in other regions of the world, you don't have that support. So it was very difficult for those businesses to adapt and react to what is happening. The idea that I want to conclude from what is happening in terms of how COVID forced businesses transformation, we saw different reactions for different businesses, for different product delivery methods that we're talking about. The main point that I want to point out here is we see that those who went into digitalization, those who sustained, those who prospered, those who thrived in their businesses, they had some kind of agility, innovation, and entrepreneurship thinking. And that was some of the factors that helped those organizations, which is now we have a problem. How do we think creatively? How can we be so innovative to take an advantage of what is happening? So those who had that kind of mentality, they thrived, they prospered, they sustained. Some examples, and we've seen this a lot. Commercial airlines, for example, a lot of them, they offer the cargo services, Lufthansa, Virgin Atlantic, American Airlines. They switch from passengers to cargo. They wanted to be creative. Some other examples, you have hotels offer day rates for working from home. In some cases, Motels, they offered great for people to work and rent rooms because working from home was very noisy with kids and a lot of distractions. And I thought that was very innovative. Restaurants, they started entering the grocery market, delivering fresh vegetables, taking advantage of their value chain and the suppliers that they used to work with in terms of supplying them with vegetables and groceries. A lot of businesses, and this is happening a lot in Canada, which is retailers pivot to curbside pickup. A lot of restaurants now doing curbside. Big retailers such as Walmart, Best Buy, they have a lot of curbside pickup because of the restrictions that we had in terms of the number of people going into stores and the lockdowns. Some, again, a lot of businesses, they expanded their digital ordering, and I already explained that in the previous slide. And I thought that was one of the innovative things was that fitness companies, actually, they moved to workouts online. And this is one of the companies that I found online that it's interesting now that you have streaming, you have online workout, other gyms like Fitness 24, they actually moved their workout to online classes. So all of that required some thinking, some innovation, as well as projects, which we will talk about in a minute. So with that in mind, what are the implications? I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic implications for business, what does that mean? Some of the implications include that global pandemic changes are leading some industries in new directions. I mean, we've seen that in the previous slide that I mentioned. I mean, some businesses went from being solely a restaurant into switching to grocery stores. Some went online, working from home. So that is forcing some businesses to go to different directions. With problems, with issues, comes also opportunities. And I like this from the World Economic Forum. I mean, greater opportunities exist for organizations embracing what? Resilience, which is greater resilience, and sustainability to preparing organizations for new digital business models, innovators across sectors. And that's what we're talking about, the innovation, the digitalization. Not only looking at this as a problem, but looking at it as an opportunity also. We see that economic recovery could take years, and it's evident from what I just presented in Canada. In some cases, some of the issues, the obstacles are going to last for a long time, and of course will vary from one industry to another. And we've seen a good example from Canadian business. Some of the implications also, I borrowed this from IBM, it says organizations are predicted to accelerate investment in digital tech transformation and cloud adoption. And we're seeing this happening now. I like the word opportunity, an enticing opportunity for executive who can make or who can manage complexity. Now, complexity is there, but it's the world is getting more complex now. And we'll talk about this principle later on once we talk about project management. By driving competitiveness and tying digital transformation, the tools that we need to business priorities. And it's interesting what's written over here, that a lot of people, a lot of businesses are trying to be innovative, to have that entrepreneurship mindset, but we still others, they're still waiting for things to go back to normal. And that's maybe the worst thing that a business could be in, which is that category, waiting for things to be normal. Because we never know when things are going to go normal. But are we going back to normal? Well, now we have new terminologies coming up. I mean, you're talking about things like next normal, new normal, up normal. And God knows when things are going to go back to normal, because every year we have a new variant coming out. So it requires a lot of innovative thinking and looking at this as an opportunity and maybe a way of taking a different direction, as we mentioned earlier, in terms of how the COVID is impacting businesses. Okay, so that is in terms of how COVID is transferring business and what do we see in terms of the trends and what is happening in the industry. I wanted to tie this, which is the COVID impact and what is happening with businesses, into the field of project management, because I saw one of the topics that you have in the conference is project management. I teach in project management. I do research in project management as well, and supply chain management and digital technology. So I wanted to tie both of them and see what is the role of project management in all of this. I mean, nobody can deny that. Now we're living in a world that is driven by change. So I titled this section by Project Management and the World Driven by Change. So I'm not going to define what project management here, but I'll talk about some important aspects of project management. So when we talk about project management, we know that the project management discipline itself has evolved over time and started with practitioners and standards from the industry, the Ministry of Defense, etc. And it ties with it different disciplines. And this progression of the discipline has been triggered by, I call it a paradigm shift. In addition to the efficiency and the emergence of project economy. So now we hear a lot about something called the project economy. We're living in the era of project economy. So what is this project economy that is driven by a world of change? The project economy is defined by the Project Management Institute as one which people have skills and capabilities they need to, here's the key word, turn ideas into reality. Turn ideas into reality, which is constant change, new ideas, innovation. And why do we call it the project economy? One of the references I'm using, or the books that I've read that I really recommend, is the Harvard Business Review Project Management Handbook. It's a recent publication for Antonio Rodriguez. It's interesting because it's recent, it's up to date. It talks a lot about what is happening right now in terms of what is changing. So I borrowed some quotation from the textbook here, or this book. I will get to it in a minute. So what we're seeing is that there's more focus on the introduction of course, new products, new features, business transformation initiatives. We talked about how the COVID transformed businesses and how some of the businesses had to come up with new ideas, take different directions. All of this is involved projects. It's not just an idea that you're going to implement right away and turn the switch. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of execution. It takes a lot of monitoring and controlling. And that's why it fits under the umbrella of project. One of the things that was mentioned in this book, which I like, it says, change cannot be implemented with traditional efficiency methods. I don't agree 100% with the statement. I will modify it in a minute. Change cannot be implemented with the traditional efficiency methods. Change must be implemented through projects. I agree in terms of change now requires projects because you're talking about new ideas. But I would like to add one thing to this quotation where we say change cannot be implemented with only, because we still need the efficiency. We still need the operations management. We still need to be efficient in how we execute the project, whether it is minimization of waste or minimizing variation in terms of quality, etc. But still, change must be implemented through projects. And that's where we have the innovation. That's where we have the breakthrough. That's why we don't have to wait until things go back to normal. That's why we see that now we live in what we call the project economy, because it's, again, it's a world driven by efficiency to a world driven by change. This is what we see happening now. If you go through the textbook, they mentioned that 30% of revenue is generated from companies in the West, in China, and also in Asian economies. It's all based on project-based, new ideas, new feature, new products. And when you think about that, efficiency is not enough. I mean, those ideas requires projects. Again, requires planning, requires management, requires execution, etc. So that is the project economy we're talking about here. Now, how the COVID, what is the relationship between the COVID and the project management? Again, I mean, the COVID-19 disruption highlighted the importance of the project management. We've seen a lot of initiatives happening during the COVID-19 and still happening until now. We saw projects everywhere. Pandemic made clear that we're all project managers, leaders, are all executive sponsors. I mean, a good example is the COVID vaccine, were delivered in less than a year rather than years. I mean, that's just a simple example, and you can take several examples. Whether you talk about the supply chain, whether you talk about the healthcare, whether you talk about different sectors or different industries, we need project managers. We need to be able to manage projects, ideas, innovation more effectively and efficiently. Okay, so with that in mind, we're asking the question: what is next for project management? Where do we see project management going? A lot of people are saying that project is the new normal. Yes, COVID is the new normal. We have now the abnormal, new normal, next normal, but also they see project as the new normal. Why? Because as we mentioned before, as we saw the impact and the transformation, how businesses transform through innovation and idea. There's a call for new ways of managing projects. I mean, and that's one of the things that we will talk about. We cannot just manage all industries, all projects with set of concrete standards, rigid in terms of control. We need to be a little bit flexible. We need to be adaptable. We need to be resilient in how we manage projects. And that's why now more and more attention is being paid to what we call management by principles, or principles-based project management. And how can we take an advantage of what is happening in the digital transformation and the emergent technology? So is there any relationship in there? With that in mind, which is the principle-based project management and emergent technologies, I wanted to focus on one of the areas that we're doing some work in trying to see what can we do with the project economy, with the world that is driven by change. So when you talk about emergent technologies and the principle-based project management, based on what we've done so far, we see that principle-based project management is becoming increasingly important, especially in what we just mentioned in terms of the project economy. What is the trend? That projects have steadily increased in terms of complexity. We say those projects are complex from the beginning, but now we have more complexity, more uncertainty, and especially with a lot of disruptions happening now with the COVID-19 and what is happening globally. And also with the disruption happening with the digital transformation. So what is the idea there? This calls for more, as we mentioned before, more effective and efficient, innovative approaches, processes and methodologies of best practices to manage projects. We cannot just have one framework or one model that fits all. And the idea is to enable project managers to deliver value to stakeholders, not only executing, using the tools to execute the project, but we're thinking about the overall system, which is delivering value to stakeholders. While several practitioners' guides, so if you go to and look at some of the guides and the standards, for example, PMI standards and guides, APM, you will see a lot of principles in terms of several guides and written on principles-based project management. But the problem is there's no enough scholarly research available in the academic literature. So I tried to do a quick search on project management principles. I mean, you see the word principles, and when you go to textbook, when you go to papers, you don't find them very concrete, straightforward as you see them in practitioners' references. You will see them referenced in textbook in different ways, unlike practitioner standards. And there's that kind of gap that we're trying to address. So some of the extant academic literature touch on different project management principles, as I just mentioned. Yet, unlike guides written for practitioners, scholars have no consensus on set of clear principles. And that's why we now see a lot of call for papers, a lot of call for research to go into that direction. And I'll share one with you shortly. So if that is what is happening in terms of digital technology, principle-based management, let's take a quick look of what is happening in terms of emerging technologies and digital transformation. What is happening? I just want to share some statistics from McKinsey & Company about the digital transformation and what is happening. According to the report by McKinsey & Company, that the COVID-19 has accelerated the adoption of digital technologies by several years. So there's a quantum leap, there's an acceleration, there's an advancement. And we've seen that in the slide that I shared in terms of how COVID-19 impacted businesses. A lot of businesses went into digital infrastructure, digital product offering. According to McKinsey, in just a few months' time, the COVID-19 crisis has brought about years of change. So that kind of acceleration in terms of the digital transformation. And we're seeing this. Organizations are already making digital transformation investment. Most of these changes will last for a long time. We saw some evidences previously. Just to put some numbers to the report by McKinsey, and this is some examples. So what they're saying is globally, there's an acceleration in terms of the digital transformation of 3 years. What's interesting is to see Asia with advancement or acceleration more than Europe and North America. And I think we can attest to this. I was in Indonesia before I went to Canada, and I was there during the early stage of the COVID-19. And I kind of felt that transformation in terms of digitalization. And I can attest that more adoption of digital technology in Asia than when coming to Canada here. So you can tell the difference. So this is a good attestation into what is happening in terms of digital transformation globally. Now I'm going to switch gear in terms of the principles themselves for project management. As I mentioned earlier, and I say there's, in terms of scholarly work, academic research, we don't see a lot of consensus in terms of the project management principles as we see in practitioners' resources. One of the most used practitioners' resource is the PMBOK, and they just released the 7th edition. Those of you who are in the project management profession, they are familiar with the PMBOK, which is the Bible or the guideline or the reference for a lot of practitioners. And those who are pursuing the professional management certification, the PMP, they use this as a reference. There was a major shift. They just released their 7th edition. So there was a major shift from the 6th to the 7th. The 6th was based on processes, knowledge areas, things like risk, quality, management, stakeholders. Now they shift to principles-based reference. So they don't talk about the processes and the tools anymore, because this is related to what I was talking earlier. There has to be new methods, new approaches in terms of how we manage projects. I just picked a couple of principles which I think are important in terms of their relation to emerging technologies. They came up with 12 principles. Those principles that I think are important in terms of the relation or the integration between, or the intersection between emerging technologies and project management is the value. There has to be a value in terms of we manage project based on value, which is delivering value to the customer. System thinking is not new to us who work in operations management or in supply chain or industrial engineering. In project management now, we're talking about, hey, we need to think about the overall, which is the system thinking of projects, not only completing what you have to do as a project manager. Another principle, which is complexity. Again, projects are so complex, they're getting more complex. Risk, it was there and it will continue to be there. What I think was interesting is adopting a new principle, which is the adaptability and resilience. This has to do with real-time data gathering, emerging technologies, and of course, change. And that's what we just mentioned at the beginning. Now, we live in a world that is driven by change. So this is important in terms of we see the practitioners moving into that principles-based project management, yet in scholarly research, we're still missing a lot of that. So I'll go through a couple of slides because I see we're running out of time. let me go to the next slide. So what is happening in terms of digital transformation and project management? Some of the common issues in managing projects, as we know, is lack of accurate and real-time data throughout the project. And this is a good area where we can apply the emergent technologies. Multiple communication issues, internal, external. And that makes it a very good area for the implementation of those emergent technologies, whether it is in schedule management, risk, quality, resource, performance evaluation. And if you are interested, there's a good paper. It's a recent paper in the Project Management Journal, one of the PMI journals. It talks about the expectations of project managers from artificial intelligence. It talks about how artificial intelligence can help project managers based on a survey from project managers, and where they see that artificial intelligence can help project managers manage projects. Going back to the emergent technologies and project management principles, this is what we are working on in terms of researchers predict that the project management would fit well with the emergent technologies. Yet we don't clearly understand how this relationship would work in light of the principle-based project management. We don't know the impact of the emergent technologies on the principles management, principles-based project management. What is the impact? What is the role of the emergent technologies? And that is the question that we're trying to understand. What is the influence of emergent technologies on project management principles? And that's why there is a special call for a paper in the Project Management Journal. And the theme of the special call is principle-based project management, where to now? They're predicting that there is a fourth wave of project management principles that need to be fine-tuned. They need to be finalized. There has to be some consensus among scholars. Okay, so that would lead us to the last slide here, which is the summary and the key takeaway. I tried to tie what is happening in terms of how COVID-19 is impacting businesses, and what is the role of project management and emergent technology as well, and what is happening in terms of scholarly and academic research so far. So we can have some key takeaways from today's presentation. Number one, that economic recovery could take years and will, of course, vary from one industry to another. So it's not a matter of a couple of months, and we don't want to fall into the trap of just waiting to see or to wait until things go back to normal. That is going to be challenging for businesses. Again, global pandemic changes are leading some industries in new direction. As we saw that some people are going and trying to be innovative. They try to change their value stream and what they do in terms of the product delivery. And what's important also that I want to leave with you is that the world is driven by change. Everything is changing around us. And change must be implemented through projects. Not only projects, but project is one way of implementing the change. Project is the new normal. Now we're talking about new ideas, new features. Things need to be implemented. There's, again, because of that, there is a need for a broad range of approaches to project management. And that's why we're talking about the project management based on principles. It is very important that organizations and businesses need to focus on the agility, being resilient in terms of how they respond to the changes, being innovative. They have that entrepreneurship mindset. And again, we expect that project management would fit well with the emergent technologies, but there's a need to investigate how this relationship would work, considering what we talked about in terms of the principles based project management. That would conclude my presentation. I hope I did not go over time, perhaps a couple of minutes. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for your very interesting and insightful presentations, Prof. Amir. So we will continue for the Q&A sessions. So I may welcome to all the participants. If you have any questions, you may raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, we already have one participant. So coming from Mr. Ahmad. Mr. Ahmad, please turn on your microphone. Thank you.
Good morning, Professor Amir.
Morning.
Nice to. It was a nice presentation, Prof. It was excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Perhaps I was one amongst the very few that used to be very against all this digital information and all that before the COVID era. I mean, I would say that I will never buy the idea of getting everything digitalized. Yeah, still, as I strongly believe, I used to strongly believe that there are still some few things in this world which is actually less digitalized. But the one happened before the COVID, and then after the COVID strikes, and then make a huge disruption. I mean, minister to turn up everything's upside down. Then I was forced to make up my mind. I mean, now I believe that it is COVID is something like natural selection or something like that. That everything got to be, everything got to be able to be transport into digitalized. Into digital. That's my understanding at the moment. I mean, having all this after COVID. Well, how do you see that? I mean, it is a kind of. It is true that everything has to be managed to be digitalized to survive. I mean, I'm talking in terms of business. Yeah, and then what is interesting, another question is that really one of your takeaway, key takeaway is that now everything got to be see in a different perspective as a project is. Yeah. Now my question is how the used to be ongoing concern of enterprise in this. I mean, if it is turned into a project based down. So how can this how can the ongoing concern of the enterprise catch up this on that idea? That's my question actually. Thank you, bro. That's all I do.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ahmad. So, Prof. Amir, you may respond to the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa Ahmed, for the question. For the first question, which I've been asked a lot, I mean, you know, I was like you before COVID-19 in terms of digitalization. I was not a big fan of digitalization somehow. If you had told me before COVID-19 that we're gonna put your son, I have a son who is in grade 1. If we're gonna put your son on online learning using a laptop from home, I would have said there's no way that my son would be sitting in a room on a laptop who is 6 years trying to navigate through Google Classroom and doing all that. It was a nightmare for the first 2 weeks just to have my son going through online learning. But now, after 1 year, I'm liking the idea now. I want him to stay home and just learn using the Google Classroom because he's good at it. He has learned that. And that is related to what I was talking about in terms of the paradigm shift. We are used to things going this way. We're happy, we're comfortable doing what we're doing. And some people thought in my presentation that I'm saying that everything is gonna go digital. I don't think so. Not everything is gonna go digital, but what I'm saying is there is a movement in terms of moving some of the product delivery in terms of digitalization. Some product has to be delivered. There has to be some kind of innovative, and one way to accelerate that is the digitalization emergent technologies. And if you want to be ahead of competition, we need to search. We need to go into that direction. But I still believe that not everything will be 100% digitalized. I mean, there has to be a balance in between. That is related to the first question. The second question, Pa Ahmed, I wasn't really sure about what you were asking, but I'm assuming you're asking about the enterprises and how they can adapt to the digitalization and what is happening here. we did the research in terms of the digitalization and what is the significant factors in terms of impacting the digitalization or obstacles. And we found that in line with other researchers, that one of the major obstacles is the, we call it upskilling and reskilling, which is the knowledge of digitalization. Just like myself and yourself before COVID-19, digitalization, artificial intelligence, IoT was a black box for us. We don't want to touch that. That is scary. So there has to be some kind of upskilling, reskilling, education about what is the digitalization, what's the benefit, what's the, not only the benefit, what are the negative side of the digitalization. So I think that it has to take place somehow before we take a leap and jump into something that we're not aware. And I guess what's also more important is there a benefit for me as a business? Is there any value? Is there any return from that perspective if I go to that side? If not, I would just continue doing what I'm doing. And I hope that answers your question, Paul.
Thank you, Prof. Now, actually, my second question was, perhaps I wasn't clear enough to make myself clear to you. I mean, my second question was actually, you know, as an executive for enterprise, we used to run the enterprise in the long run. I mean, strategically, we always see the long horizons. No, I mean, having one of your takeaways that we have to start to think of on a project basis. That's how are we going to keep up on that? That's actually my question, Prof.
Which is how to take on to the opportunities. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, we used to see everything in the long run, in a strategically in the long run. But now it seems that we have to start to get used ourselves to look into a more short period. I mean, on the project basis, constantly something like that. How are we going to keep up on that?
Oh, I see, Ahmed. I think there's no change. I mean, we're still as an executive, as a management, we still have to think strategically in terms of long term as well. And what I'm saying is, there are opportunities, there are things we need to have that innovative new way of thinking about. Not waiting for things to change, not waiting for things to go back to normal. We need to take an advantage of what is happening. And I gave some examples of some organizations or enterprises, as I mentioned, like the airline industry, how they went from passengers to cargo, restaurants, they went from delivering food to switching to grocery store. But that's also along the strategic thinking as well. I mean, we're talking about sustainability. How do we sustain our business? How do we continue? I mean, I'm not portraying that we need to just think short term. We still have to think also long term, taking into account what is happening in today's changing world.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Amir. Does it satisfy you, Mr. Ahmed?
Yeah, thank you. Very clear. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you,
Mr.
Ahmed. Okay, it seems that we still have one more questions coming from the participant who already raised his hand. Mr. Toto Santoso. Okay, you are welcome to turn on your microphone. Yeah, Mr. Toto, you're still
mute.
Mute, yeah. Please unmute your microphone. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. Talk a lot, but I not consider it is not on yet. Thank you, Mbak Natli Fatin, the time. Thank you, Pak Amar Amir. By the way, this is the first time I see you as my docent, because actually I'm under you as docent wali, Bu Natli Fatin.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Mr. Amar, thanks a lot for by seeing all presentations. I get a new way to see what happened so far, at least within these 2 years. The most important from that speech you shared to us is we have to change our understanding about efficiency. in this situation, all in mind, all in book, all in papers, we have to make happen by project management. Is that right? This is the way
Correct.
to make happen what all ideas in mind, all ideas in right. But the most exciting to me is we have to change our understanding about efficiency. For this project management, we cannot anymore to use the recipe or the formulation to calculate efficiency. Can you elaborate more detail about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Pa Toto, for the question. Can I go ahead and answer, or do I wait for you to moderate?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes, sure.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yes, Prof. Yeah.
So, Pa Toto, very good question. Thank you so much. And that's why one of the slides I shared were the book that I showed you, which is the Harvard Business Review quotation. It says that we don't want, change is not going to be happening by focusing on efficiency. Change is happening by projects. As I said earlier, I still strongly believe that we still have to be efficient in what we do, in what we run. Even projects, they have to be efficient. The point is, a lot of things are being implemented now based on projects, whether it is improvement, whether it is new features, whether it is new product, whether it is new business. It's all projects if you think about it. And those projects, they need to be implemented in a way that is, in my opinion, also needs to be efficient. So that's why I said in that quotation, I don't want to get rid of efficiency 100%. We still need to be efficient. But the new norm now is a lot of things are being implemented through projects. But that doesn't mean that everything is going to be project management. But what we're saying is because of the change, because of what is happening, a lot of things are moving fast. And if you want to be moving fast, look at example as the COVID vaccination. Those companies who moved fast, Moderna, Pfizer, in terms of executing the project, they are the winners. In terms of the competition, we still have companies that they're still in the trial, they're still in the lab. So that is the idea of being driven by change, the importance of implementing projects. But I still strongly believe that we still have to think about efficiency as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Pak
Is it enough, Pak Toto?
Good, more than enough. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr.
Thank you. Thanks once again. Yeah, so it seems that we already got many questions from the link that have been shared by the committee members. So I will allow the committee members to share few questions. Yeah, okay. So it seems that we have around 14 questions here, Prof. Amir. Maybe I can start from the questions coming from Ivan Ali Sanjaya. So how is COVID-19 affecting the infrastructure sector in Canada? Are there any improvements made by the construction company so that it remains sustainable? Yeah, Prof. Amir, please.
Yes, there's a lot of construction going on, but most of it is in the real estate. A lot of buildings. The real estate in business in Canada is a little bit different than the States and other places. We have a lot of regulations, a lot of rules, so it takes a lot of time to create that. But in terms of infrastructure, it's still, as government agencies, things still going as normal. Except in cases where there's restrictions, there's lockdowns, of course, everything shuts down.
Well, okay. Hopefully your answer can satisfy Mr. Ivan. So let's continue for the next questions. I may read from the questions from Mr. Mustaqim. Yeah, good morning. About the digital transformations, how can we assess our business readiness level and its requirement to transform, such as the resources, the age of industry, and etc.? Yeah, Prof. Amir.
Good. So in terms of assessing the readiness for the digital technology, I think number one has to do with what do you want from the digital transformation? What is it that you want to digitize? And not just going into digitalization, first of all. So you need to look at your business, you need to look at your product delivery, what you're doing, and where can I use the digitalization to optimize my process, to save me time, to save me cost. So I think that is the first thing that you need to look at in terms of the overall business. Once you do that, you need to look at what is it that we can do in terms of training, reskilling, upskilling the people, having that knowledge in terms of bringing everybody up to speed. Once we do that, we can determine later on in terms of infrastructure, in terms of business processes, etc. So it's a long process that starts with what is it for you? What is the value that is going to get to you in terms of optimizing your processes?
Okay, that was very interesting. So I may read one more questions due to the very limited time. So yeah, perhaps from the questions from Mr. Dida Ardi. In Indonesia, most of the farmers are not literate related to the technology. So how can we do the digital transformations to those who are not familiar with the digitizations?
That is a very interesting question. I'm working on a research in terms of the food supply chain in Indonesia with some of my former students. And I'm familiar with that in terms of not being... it's not only in Indonesia, it's in a lot of places, even here in Canada, in the US. So nobody said that they need to be up to that skill in terms of digitalization. However, we can help them. We can help the farmers in providing the technologies. As an example, one of the things that we're doing is creating devices, which is IoT devices, to track the quality of the product from the farm all the way to the consumer. In that perspective, we're helping the farmers indirectly, making sure that the product, the farm or the produce is getting to the end user with the required quality, with the right storage, with the right transportation. So I would hate to think that we have to educate everybody in the country or everybody in every sector in terms of digitalization. However, there are things that we can do to help. As the example that you mentioned in farming, indirectly by employing those digital or emerging technologies. I hope that satisfies his question.
Thank you. So education is the key point in here. Thank you, Prof. Amir. Perhaps one more question from me, from myself. Prof. Amir, what do you think? What kind of business model that will fit for our SMEs? Or small and medium sized enterprise to fit in this pandemic situation, the ongoing pandemic situations?
Well, again, it depends on the product delivery. What are you trying to serve? Are we talking about tangible? Are we talking about digital? For the enterprise, go ahead.
Yep. Maybe if you see for our Indonesian conditions, our country, my country, especially in here. So what do you think? Since you already have experience living in this country for a few years, I believe.
Yeah, actually, I have to say I'm very impressed with the innovation that you have in Indonesia with the small businesses and retailers. And I told you that coming to Canada after living in Indonesia, I found that people use digital technology more in Indonesia than here in Canada, especially with small businesses. When you talk about Gojek or Go-Kart and all that stuff. So I think you're somehow in terms of small businesses ahead of other countries. So I miss that from living in Indonesia. Again, considering what is happening right now in terms of COVID-19 and the restrictions and the lockdown, even small businesses, they need to be innovative and thinking of new ways of delivering the product and the service. I don't have a one answer that fits all. Again, it depends on the product, the service, but I still believe that there has to be some kind of innovative way of delivering the product using the digital platform. In Indonesia, you have good platforms in terms of end users and people. They are using technology heavily, and I think you have an advantage from that perspective with the new generation.
Well, thank you very much for your very insightful sharing for today's sessions. So for ladies and gentlemen, due to the very limited time, so unfortunately, I couldn't accommodate for all of your questions since I need to soonly end these sessions. But before I end this session, I may sum up these sessions. So Prof. Amir talk us about the impact of COVID-19 on business and the role of the project management. And this COVID-19 pandemic has significantly affected business delivery models, where the organizations had to adopt the new and innovative approaches to their product and services, searching for alternatives. And in some cases, organizations also had to redesign their value chain to survive the long-lasting global disruptions. And it is predicted that it will take years for industries to rebound back to the pre-pandemic era with a varying level in different industries. So the project management in this case played a significant role in the transformation process of the business due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And one more interesting quote that I got today from Prof. Amir's speech is change cannot be implemented with only traditional efficiency methods, but change must be implemented through the projects. So once again, thank you so much, Prof. Amir, for your very insightful sharing, and also for all the participants. Thank you for your active participations and attention in here. And I will return these sessions to Terry as the MC. Please enjoy the rest of the conference. My name is Rena Delifatin. Thank you for having me. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much for our moderator, Ibu Reni Nadli Fatin, PhD, and also Associate Professor Amar Amir, PhD, as the keynote speaker of the fourth motive. Ladies and gentlemen, now as a token of appreciation, we would like to give a certificate for our first keynote speaker, which is going to be delivered by Professor Nyoman Pujawan as the Dean of SIMT ITS.
Okay, Prof. Amir, that was a very great and inspiring presentation. We learned a lot from your talk today. And I would like, on behalf of the committee, to deliver the certificate of Thank you very much.
Well, once again, thank you very much for Professor Nyoman Pujawan, PhD, and also Associate Professor Amar Amir as the keynote speaker of the fourth motive. Now, we would like to inform that all of the participants may take a break for 5 minutes and prepare yourself, because after this break, may all of the participants join the first and the second parallel session on the room for each paper based on the instruction given. And presentation will be starting at 10 a.m. Once again, thank you for participating in the fourth motive. Ladies and gentlemen, now you may move to the parallel session by scanning or clicking the link on the chat column. Thank you for your attention.
Included changes in the demand of end products. End of life product hub is going to be really important. Circular economy and the
Do you ever wonder, What makes a life-changing history? Right, a solid mission of the visionaries. It was Dr. Anka and his colleagues' mission to accelerate technology development. Through the establishment of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, their goodwill has encouraged ITS students to take important roles in both local and global communities. Ministers, CEOs, professors, entrepreneurs, and yes, another history maker. These successful alumni were trained in a healthy learning environment that was equipped with various supporting facilities. From vocation to marine technology, all faculties and departments of ITS were formed to be the best place to learn science, technology, and design. 7 faculties and 1 interdisciplinary school. Scientists, Faculty of Science and Data Analytics. MARTech, Faculty of Marine Technology. INSYS, Faculty of Industrial Technology and Systems Engineering. Electics, Faculty of Intelligent Electrical and Informatics Technology. CivPlan, Faculty of Civil, Planning, and Geoengineering. CreaBiz, Faculty of Creative Design and Digital Business. Vocation, Faculty of Vocation. And Interdisciplinary School of Management and Technology. Recognized as one of the top best-ranked institutes doesn't mean the finish line for ITS.